Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Hendrik. I'm a developer advocate here at CodeRabbit, and I'm excited to have you with us for this live stream. Today, we are driving into one of the biggest open model launches of the moment. Nemotron 3 Super just dropped. And we'll talk about why this release matters, what makes the model special, and what it means for developers building AI applications today, especially with a focus on code review, of course. I'm very happy to be joined by two great experts in the field for these conversations. So without any further delay, please welcome with me David Locker, our VP of AI. Hi, David.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, it's a wonderful day in San Francisco, a super day, so to say.
That's right.
Yeah. And I also have with me Chris, who is a senior product research engineer at NVIDIA. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
How's it going, guys? Nice to be here.
Awesome. We're super happy to have you here with us. So, Chris, today marks the launch of Nemotron 3 Super, which is NVIDIA's, flagship open source model. Can you explain to us a little bit why this is such a major milestone for the, open source AI landscape and especially for developers?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's obviously the second in our family of Nemotron 3 models. So this is we released Nano earlier on, which is kind of in that 30B range. And then Super is kind of like our data center GPU flagship model. And I think it's good for the community because it's I mean, not to puff ourselves up too much, but it's one of the most open models that exists right now with the capabilities that it has. And so when we release a model, I think a lot of people think of like, oh, you get some weights and then the model can do stuff. When we release a model, we release like the checkpoint, obviously, commercially licensed, the training data, a huge portion of it. That includes like pre-training, SFT, RL data. We also release an end-to-end training recipe, so you can train your own super if you wanted to take that challenge on. As well as like resources how to customize in a tech report that explains all the choices we made and why we made them. So I think that to me is why it's an important piece of the open source community, right? It is sharing all of the learnings from the whole stack and sharing out the actual artifacts. We of course also release like the base model, so you can start part of the way through past what I think a lot of people consider like the hardest or most GPU intensive portion of training, if you want to just get cooking on the base model to do some post training. So I mean, it's also good or whatever, but I think those things are expected at this point. So
yeah, no, great. I think another point that I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into as well is, many organizations want to adopt AI, especially larger enterprises, but they have data governance and privacy concerns. So can you explain a little bit more deeply, what Nemotron and the family really enables those companies to do in terms of like, governing their own infrastructure?
Give me that question one more time. I'm not sure I understood it correctly.
So, many organizations are striking to adopt AI in a secure way. And I think the Nemotron family is a prime example or part of your strategy to enable that. Can you dive a little bit deeper and explain why Nemotron Super is a new milestone for that?
I mean, it's kind of like this idea, right? That like I think people want to know what their model was trained on, how it was trained. They want the ability to kind of tap into any point of the process and make modifications. And by open sourcing basically everything, like it just makes it a lot easier to do that, or to have the confidence that you know exactly what tokens went into the model. And I think that is big for people who want to make sure like they know like the lineage of the data or how the model was trained, so they can do anything they need to do to make themselves more comfortable and feel more secure when they have a final artifact that they deploy into production. So the idea is, I think like releasing everything puts that decision or the capability to make that decision into the hands of the people who need to make it, as opposed to us making it for them specifically.
Right. No, that's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit more technical. So the Nemotron models introduce a fairly unique architecture combining, Mamba layers, mixture of experts routing and low precision quantization. Without going too deep into the weeds, can you explain like 1 or 2 or 3 innovations that come with that series?
Yeah, I mean, it's we have like a really specific architecture for a good reason, right? I love this tagline, so permit me to say like the marketing language, right? Which is like faster models or smarter models, right? I believe that this is true in my core, and a lot of the decisions that were made for something like say Nemotron 3 Super are made with that in mind, right? So things like latent MOE help us with efficiency. During training, and then that downstreams to when you're pushing tokens out of the model. Things like MTP, multi-token prediction, right? That helps us generate tokens faster. Faster models are smarter models, so that's directly aligned. And then when it comes to this like hybrid Mamba architecture, right? It's really in order to get us the efficiency across really long contexts. So the idea is like reasoning models, right? Generally, they're not only taking in a lot of context, which is kind of was starting to be very true before, but they're also like generating a lot of tokens, right? Even when we have it in like lower verbosity settings, so we've like ratcheted down the reasoning budget, or it's in low effort mode, like they're still going to generate a lot of tokens. And so having the performance as in like latency and throughput stay high even at high context is really important, and that Mamba architecture helps with that in a big way.
Yeah, great points. Let's talk a bit practical. For a developer watching this right now, I mean, you launched a model literally 1 hour ago. Where can I find it? How can I access it? How can I actually run it?
Yeah, I think you find it wherever you would expect to find it on the internet now. But Hugging Face is obviously where I'd suggest most people go to get the weights. If you want to just play with the model, like you don't want to run it yourself, it is not a small model. It's a 120 billion parameter model. And while you can run it on like your DGX Spark in NVFP4, if you don't have access to a Spark or a B200 GPU, then just run it on build.nvidia.com or through one of our inference providers that we worked with through OpenRouter, if you just want to actually like play around with the model. But the weights are on Hugging Face. We have our Nemotron GitHub repository, which you can check out, which has like all of the link tree to everything else, including some how to customize resources, how to run it. Also, if you're on like Perplexity Pro, and you want your Perplexity Pro experience to be powered by Nemotron 3 Super, you could do that as well. So there you go. Always fun.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that insight. So let's shift the conversation a little bit. Thank you for explaining us more about the architecture, Chris. But David, you've been actually running Nemotron Nano in production. Actually, in fact, we have a signage here from our CES booth that we shared with NVIDIA this January, which actually talks about that. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit of how we use Nemotron Nano today in our workflow at CodeRabbit, and what we're excited about there, what use cases it covers.
Yeah, so I think I've been working with NVIDIA pretty closely in this idea that you can have a good combination of both open models and frontier models, depending on the exact use case that's involved and what you need, right? Mm-hmm. And so at CodeRabbit, we don't have just one model call. We have a whole host of things that happen leading up to what people say the generation of comments, right? The idea that I'm going to finish the review off. The vast majority of the work actually happens before that, right? What information do I need in order to do a comprehensive review of a PR? A lot of that comes down to pulling in context, but you can't just throw everything at the LLM. It will get confused. It'll lose track of things. It will not focus on the right parts, or there's just too much. And so a lot of work goes down to what we call summarization, but is really kind of an active distillation of information, right? So I have a big chunk of data. Let's say I pulled in a document from MCP, or I pulled in some code from some other part of the code base. How do I extract the relevant pieces of information from there? And so that's something actually Nano is really good at, right? It was really good at going in and taking an instruction following. So that's also what I saw. We use it for a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Go in, I have this big file, let's say it's 1,000 lines. I need to find a specific method. I need to figure out exactly what it's doing. I don't want to look at the code. Let's say I want the function signature and I want to understand at a certain level what is going on. That's where Nano can be useful. And that's actually the vast majority of the work leading up to the code review is that context engineering, context gathering, information distillation, so that the model that's going to do the code review sees exactly what it needs to see.
And that has many applications, right? I mean, in preparation of this show here, I've been going through some subreddits, and I've actually been seeing one from a company where some developers were begging their tool provider to implement Nano for these type of use cases, because it can get very expensive and also time consuming to use some of the frontier models, right, to do some of these lower level tasks.
That's right. And it's actually just not necessary, right? So if you compare the two, so we have a very comprehensive evaluation harness, right? That does multiple things when it's trying to figure out what model is useful and how useful is it, and how can I compare them in a quantitative way that it's repeatable, so I can do experimentation. And you'll see, like, I'll spend a lot more, have a lot slower throughput, and not really move the needle at all if I just use an arbitrary model, right? So you have to find that balance so that you can then pass those savings on to the customer, so that they're not paying for something they don't need, right?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So now the super upgrade comes in. What are you excited about? Is there a use case that goes beyond summarization that is unlocked now? Give us a brief.
Yeah, there are other complicated parts of our workflow to understand what's going on in a PR at a sort of not a really, really deep reasoning level, but it still requires some level of intelligence. And I've noticed that that's sort of an area where Super is going to do really well, right? Again, the instruction following is better. And that's probably as a result of it being slightly larger and having a little bit more capabilities. And it's moving the needle in an interesting way. So I think those use cases are not just strict sort of summarization, as I call it, in a way, that require a little bit more. That's where I see Super sort of stepping in.
Yeah. What's your perspective here, Chris? Can you talk a little bit about some of the use cases that you envision? I'm sure you guys have been running some tests already. Give us an idea.
Yeah, I mean, David already hit the nail on the head here. I think the idea is that this is like Nano, but better. That's the idea. That's what we designed it for. One thing that kind of surprised us during training at how effectively the team was able to make this happen is, like, we did some we made sure we spent some cycles making sure Super was good at, like, these kinds of autonomous long-running agent tasks. So these are like your claws and your Claude codes, or open hands, open code, all Kilo code, all these different platforms. And like it's like amazing at it, right? And I think that's something because it's also fast is really heartening to see. I imagine, like, the decisions that were made to make the model in our estimation the smartest it could be, which in part means as fast as it could be, I think really lends itself to those kinds of use cases. So these agent workflows that need a model that's capable enough to do reasoning, but it can't be so slow that you're, like, waiting for 10 minutes for everything to complete, right? That thinking tax is how we're talking about it. I think as well, like, I don't know if it like makes sense, or you were already going to talk about this, David, but, like, if you want to know how frontier models and open models play together, I would encourage you to watch the session that we have at GTC, where we're going to do exactly that. Yep. And David is going to be one of the people speaking on that. So, I want to hammer that point in, which is Super is a great model. Don't get me wrong. I love Super. It's so fast. It's not the everything model, right? It's not like this is a model in your model tool belt, and it's going to work great in concert with other models like frontier models, because it is capable enough that you can leave it to a lot of autonomous tasks, but you may want, like, a extremely slow, powerful model at the helm, planning out what to do. So all this to basically say David was right. Great summarization.
Yeah, I think that's right. So yeah, we're definitely going to deep dive into that at our session at GTC. So definitely attend that if you're interested. I think the way that I see all models is, like, they have specific areas where they do really well, and you should use them in the places that are appropriate to try and get where you're going, while also optimizing for things like speed and optimizing for whatever you're trying to do, right? Whether it's something that's cost that you're trying to optimize for, or latency, right? And that's, again, Nano, Super, these things being fast, it's not just about like that particular moment being intelligent. What it opens up for us, right, is the ability to then do other things. So we can run more iterations. We can have multiple passes that do things to like validation and stuff like this. So it opens up opportunity to explore other areas, right? Because we're no longer taking, say, 5 minutes to do something. If we're taking 2, now we have 3 minutes maybe that we can play with to do other things that might actually add really concrete value when it comes to sort of our base metrics, things like recall rates or precision rates and things like that.
So will the developer feel a difference if you put, super in the loop instead of nano?
Yeah, again, if we do that and we free up time, they'll feel it because suddenly we can do more for them, right? We can spend more time doing code research. We can spend more time gathering context. We can do more passes. So all these things lead to downstream effects that end up playing a role in the comments that finally get generated from the user's perspective, right? What they actually see at the end of the day.
Chris, you said something interesting that kind of provoked me, because I read an article earlier online about how you changed the training mode for these models. Is that true? So there's you moved away from learning with human feedback in the loop to something else. Could you elaborate?
I think we still do RLHF. It's just not as, there's so much more to do, right? So like a big part of how we did Nemotron 3 Nano and of course now Nemotron 3 Super was to include like multi-environment RL training where we're training on like a ton of environments at the same time, in fact. And I think that, listen, things like chat and use cases where like a human is interacting with the model, it may not shock you, benefit actually quite well from things like RLHF, right? Because that is what it's for. It's for humans, right? Like the model's conversational prowess is felt by us exactly. But for stuff like calling tools or doing science or actually doing math correctly, right? Like those things, it's dope if it does it and is like nice and pleasant, but more importantly, it needs to be correct. And so that's where that RLVR style environment through something like we use Nemo Gym is really important, right? Because it lets us make sure that the model's accurate and effective on those tasks, not just pleasant to deal with. Though we still want it to be pleasant, of course. Come on, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, can you talk a little bit more about the reasoning capabilities of Super, and maybe also give us a little bit of an outlook after that of how what's ahead with Ultra on the roadmap? But yeah.
Ultra's coming. We've talked about that. It's on the way. I don't have much more to say than what we've already talked about publicly, which is that's going to be like about 500 billion parameters with 58 billion active parameters. We're using the same innovations that we just dropped with Super, which is like MTP, latent MOE. It's the same architecture. It's just like the big one. But that's really it. It is on the way. Brian Catanzaro just reminded everybody that Ultra is coming in the Super announcement tweet. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to testing that out in some other areas of our workflow. That's for sure.
I think it's going to be a banger. I'm obviously biased, but I'm really excited for Ultra. Super really surprised me with some of its capabilities as it was coming together. I think I had pretty high expectations, and then actually using the model was a better experience than even I would have thought.
Okay, great. Well, what are you excited about for Ultra?
Yeah, I think there's more and more. I think that I'm seeing open models become better and better at sort of these other tasks in our workflow, right? So I like seeing the progression because ultimately it gives us more opportunities, both for serving customers who really want to know the type of data that a model is trained on, for example. But also gives us opportunities to potentially focus in on maybe customization, right, of a model and things like that. So right now, for example, Super came out and it's very good at some of these other tasks like triaging, understanding how difficult a PR is, and being able to deeply move into that, right? And so that's a step up. So now I have more of my workflow when it comes to PR reviews that we can use open models for and use Nemotron for. And I'm looking forward to seeing Maybe it can handle some of the agentic loops, and maybe it can handle some of the heavier reasoning tasks for certain types of PRs. So we'll see where it progresses, but I'm just really excited for the entire space as it moves forward, right?
Right. Well, do you think we'll be seeing soon, like fully open source or commercial open source powered applications?
I think we should see that now, right? In some cases, it makes a lot of sense where you can specialize a model. I have a particular use case, right? And it's more narrow. These large frontier spaces are not going after it because it's not coding, say, for example. And you can get a lot of benefit and lift in terms of your main metrics potentially if you take an open model and you make it work really well for your particular vertical. So I'm imagining we're seeing a lot of that right now even, right? And so now you have the base model, you have the ability to take it in and look at your own data set, use things like NVIDIA's tool sets, right? And ultimately get a really, really specific model that's going to perform very well for your application. So I'm assuming that there's a lot of that happening right now.
Yeah, Chris,
well,
how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point, right? I mean, the part of why we want to make sure people have access to things like the base checkpoint or things like all these resources on how to train the model or how to generate specific data for the model is exactly for that reason, right? I mean, it's no secret that our research teams certainly and you know the whole company is aligned on like many specialists is probably what you need as opposed to one big generalist, right? And obviously, as the models get bigger, we can create even more focused specialists if we have the starting point to work from, right? So something like Super's base checkpoint being really, really good is important to us. So, you know, when you downstream it, right? When you make it good at like your task that only you care about, but it needs to be the best in the world at that, right? That you can do that. And I think that's part of why open source is, in my opinion, is important to keep flourishing, right? Without that ecosystem, then we can't have that. We're kind of locked into whatever, you know, company A or B decides our models need to be good at, which is awesome, by the way, for like most use cases, to be clear. But if you have a use case only you care about, then it may not serve those needs. And I think having and continuing to have open models is gonna keep us pushing that direction. Not to be too pluggy, okay, but I'll plug one more time. We're going to have some examples of that as well in the session that we're doing with CodeRabbit at GTC, talking about how you can make Listen, it's a good session, okay? Soon, yeah. You know,
all roads lead back to GTC in our particular session.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Definitely
I guess
show up.
There's other cool sessions or whatever, but you know, but I think that's important to understand is that yes, we should be thinking about making specialist models. It's easier if we have open models, and it's easier even still if we have really open models that can help you on that path.
Yeah, no, I think that is a beautiful closing thought. I think with that in mind, I want to you know, give you the opportunity, Chris, if there's anything else. I know you already given a couple teasers for GTC. You want to share with the audience here, please feel free. And then after that, to anybody who is watching right now, we will open up the floor for questions. So please, if you have any questions to David or to Chris, please feel free to drop them in the comments right now. And we have at least another 5 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, to answer those. Yeah, excited for what you have to say.
I mean, the session is like the big thing. We're doing it with CodeRabbit. Really excited. I'm really excited because I get to help deliver it. We've done a lot of events with you guys. Always the right vibe. So I think the session is going to be fun and informative, and you'll learn stuff, you know, which is dope. But also, I think it'll be fun. And we're doing actually at GTC, if you'll permit me to plug this, an 8-hour all-day live stream on Wednesday. That's the 18th, live from GTC. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say GTC, you don't know what the vibe's like, you know, you aren't going to attend specifically for David and I's session, then you can tune into the live stream. We'll be on our developer channels all day.
But they should definitely come to our session.
Yeah, please come to the session.
Happening? When and where?
It's on Tuesday.
I do think it might be at capacity, but
oh, okay.
You can get on demand.
Yeah, so it's Tuesday. I don't remember the time. Do you remember the time?
I think it's 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Or
Tuesday,
3
1
p.m.
Or 3 p.m. Well, you find it on the schedule.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes.
And I'm sure it will be recorded. So even if you can't make it, you'll be able to join. Okay, great. Juan, let's dive into some questions. So we have one question from the audience here. Is this Nemotron model specific for CodeRabbit?
So this model is for everybody. If you want to use this model, go ahead. It's not designed for any one particular use case in mind. But again, if you want to take the model and make it perfect for your use case, we provide all the resources that you need to do that. And anything else about the model on CodeRabbit specifically, David's the guy.
Yeah, and when I say that we used it and it did really well in certain circumstances, that's without any fine tuning, right? So ultimately, we could make it even better for those things by employing some of these techniques, right?
Wonderful. Another question we got here from the audience. Would you think there is a good opportunity to use the model with things like OpenClaw? For example, I got a box Spark and want to make it want to make the most out of it.
Heck yeah, guys. Okay, so it's, sorry, my bad. The Canadian's slipping out a little bit. So yes, definitely. We tested the model on PinchBench, which is a kind of new benchmark for some of these claw tasks, and it's actually the best open model across the whole suite of tasks that has been tested. So definitely I'd suggest using it. And specifically for DGX Spark, it was very important to us that on NVFP4, this thing could run on the Spark. So you can actually run super locally on the Spark in NVFP4. There should be, in our GitHub, there'll be a guide to help you do that. And the idea is pretty straightforward. You run the model on the Spark, and then you can also host OpenClaw on the same device, and it can be your little claw in a box. Stay tuned for more at GTC, of course, where we'll talk more about how Super works and everything like that on the Spark.
Great. How Super works super on Spark. All right. I got you there. Next question, please. Where can we find CodeRabbit at GTC?
We're going to have a booth. So definitely just look at the sort of list of the maps so you can orient yourself. I don't know the exact location that's going to be in, but we have a booth. And then we have actually 2 presentations that I'm going to be giving. One is with Chris, and another one is on specifically CodeRabbit and more of what we do in specificity. So you can go to that as well. That's on the same day, on Tuesday as well. It's a little bit earlier in the day.
Okay, good to know. All right. Got another one up, I think. Does CodeRabbit plan to release a local or offline version for users who wish to run a local/custom models for code reviews?
So that's not currently on our roadmap. We definitely have a CLI tool, and we have a plugin for use within Cloud Code, for example, where you can leverage it locally on your machine, but it's still going to reach out to the cloud to do the review. There's a lot of heavy lifting that goes on, a lot of information that gets gathered, and so we're not planning currently to make that into a local thing.
Good to know. Any more questions, Juan? All right, I think this is where we got the audience here. Well, in that case, then, thank you very much for taking the time, David. Thank you for taking the time, Chris. This has been a blast. I hope everybody's watching. I got some insights out of it. I did, I'm sure. And yeah, with that being said, Chris, we hope to have you on again soon. Thank you for dialing in. And I think we can close it here.
All right, well, great to see you again, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Good.
See you guys.
Bye.